Hello, I'm John Hines, Director of Compass Resolution. And today I have the pleasure and privilege of talking to Marcie Shaoul, founder and director of the Co-Parent Way, the UK's only dedicated co-parenting coaching practice. Welcome, Marcie.
Thank you.
Now, Marcie is a certified coach accredited to the International Coaching Federation. As well as her coaching work with parents, Marcie is also a highly skilled executive coach, working with leaders across a range of professional sectors, having previously led communications teams in the diplomatic sector. Today, however, I'll be talking to Marcie about her work with parents. Marcie has developed a unique coaching methodology which supports parents to co-parent together effectively after separation. Marcie has spent the last 10 years developing the Co-Parent Way technique through research, personal experience, and with her clients. Her methodology has been called pioneering and necessary by family lawyers, mediators, and judges across the board. And she sits on the high-profile Resolutions Parenting After Parting Committee. Marcie is a co-parent herself as well. So if you're separating or have separated and trying to co-parent, Marcie is most definitely someone you need to listen to closely. So Marcie, I guess to my first question, what is co-parent coaching and why is it so different to what's already out there?
Thank you. Thanks for the lovely introduction. So co-parent coaching, it's not counselling, it's not relationship therapy, it's not divorce coaching, because it doesn't focus on the story of the breakup. It doesn't focus on the story of the couple. It looks straight to the child and it offers practical and achievable ways for parents to interact with each other. And because it does that, it keeps children in what we call here a safe parental loop. Coaching's really practical. I'll talk about the loop perhaps in a bit, but coaching's really, really practical. It may find the root cause, but we don't sit in it. We look at the forward movement. We look at identifying the patterns that are keeping us stuck, maybe in the way that we're communicating, that's not helping us so much, helps us to find a different perspective and helps us to know how to move on. And parents leave co-parent coaching really being able to do two things. One, self-manage better, and two, communicate more easily with each other. They'll know where and how to compromise without feeling disempowered. They'll be able to see things from each other's perspective, understand how their children might be feeling, make mutual decisions from that place. And that means that they can go on and do practical things like sharing out school holidays, the big one, meeting new partners, go to parents' evening together, because co-parent coaching really looks at your reaction to the other person and helps you take responsibility for your own actions. And it gets you to a place where you can move your anger and your fear and your hurt to one side and up your kids. And the great thing is you don't have to like them very much. You just learn how to interact with them.
So the kind of, I guess, I mean, two words kind of come to mind when you started talking, and that was the two words in my mind anyway. There's a sense of this notion of agency and the notion of connectedness. And so if you can help each parent to develop these, develop resources they probably already have, I'm guessing, you know, these, the capacities they already have to interact, but they have gone kind of slightly awry when they're in the relationship with the other parent, and then once I'm hearing that as you develop those or help them develop those self-regulation capacity and so on, then you hopefully out of that will come a better connectedness, better form of different strategies and skills to communicate in a way that is good enough, works.
Basically,
yeah.
Good enough is where we're going. We're not aiming to get people to be going on holidays with each other. And I mean, lovely if you can get to that. Not many of us can get to that. It needs to be good enough because your children need to feel nice and stable, because it's all about their mental health. It's all about their resilience. It's all about how your kids grow up and form their own relationships and how they show up in the world. And in order for them to be able to do that well and effectively, we need to take responsibility, agency, great word, now, because in 10 years' time, it's going to be too late. So it's about how we help our clients to take responsibility for that. And when clients and parents realize that, oh, I've got to do this now, I don't want to do it now, but I understand I have to do it now, and we help them kind of to deal with that and to take that agency.
And I think most parents listening to you and listen to us will, most parents I come across in my practice as a mediator, are absolutely at one with wanting the best for their children, looking after, protecting their welfare and so on. And what they struggle with often is that communication. Would you say that, well, no, what I mean, here's a question. What can you give the viewers perhaps some keys to, whilst we're talking about how to improve the co-parenting relationship and so on, maybe some kind of keys, some just big ones that you focus on with them to help them improve that relationship, so that they can then parent their children together and support their children?
Yeah, 100%. The first thing to do, if you're separating, whether you've been separated for 3 days or 3 years, kind of 10, 15 years into the future, and help see understand what you want your adult children to say about how you co-parented them. And I have not had a client yet, and I've had many hundreds of clients who've gone, oh, I want them to say, that we were in conflict and that it was awful for them growing up as kids or teenagers. Every single person says, I want them to say that we did our best, that we made it a safe enough space. So when parents can think through that process, it helps them take that responsibility. And that's really the first hurdle, if you like, to get over. And then another big thing to think about, if you are listening and you are going through a separation with kids at the moment, is think about how you respond when your ex speaks. So this is not about a power struggle. This is not about winning and losing. This is about learning to pause for enough time so the other person can finish speaking. Because when someone feels fully heard, everything calms down. Okay. It's when someone doesn't feel heard or when they feel interrupted that conflict starts to escalate. You don't have to agree after you've paused, but you just need to take responsibility for not kind of throwing petrol on the fire. So those are the two kind of the easiest things to grasp onto, I think.
And if I'm feeling heard, I'm more likely to be open to listening, I guess.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then seeing things from your child's perspective, rather than it becoming just an adult struggle. It's like, oh, okay, so she's listening to me. Okay, so I've got everything I need to get off my chest. Actually, I'm going to listen back now and know, oh yeah, that point that she's making about that after school club or whatever it might be. Yeah, okay, I see that point of view. So what happens neurologically is you're putting distance between what you're hearing and your emotional response. And the brain is really, really, it's massively complex. That bit of distance, that even if it's 5 seconds, that is enough for your brain to go, oh, okay, don't need to respond with a big emotional hoo-ha. Can just think practically, and that's quite nice for your brain, and it keeps everything nice and calm.
So it is really, isn't it? I'm hearing a kind of maintaining this nice balance between the head and the heart in terms of communication, the conversation, integrating the speaking. In terms of empathy, I'm not talking about being wanting, loving. I'm talking about the keys to good conversation. Maybe kind of be kind, be willing to listen, be willing to offer, maybe before receiving. I mean, I often say to my parents in preparation, maybe just think about this. Maybe if you seek to understand you, they might be willing to listen to you afterwards, rather as opposed to wanting to offload your bucket first and then I expect them to listen to. So maybe things like that. Yeah. Just getting back to that point, actually, just on, about the children, and it just kind of raises kind of question I often ask them. I said, what to parents? What kind of experience in 10 years' time, 15 years' time? What kind of experience do you want your children to be describing about, their experience as children going through the separation? And if I get parents kind of focusing on that and working on that and describing for them each other, that, as you said, that gives them that kind of really clear focus as well, and to do some work together. Yeah.
And actually, and before, sorry, there was a bit of a freeze, a Zoom freeze. That's a really important point you make, because what's happening there is, if everybody can think into the future and take that bit of responsibility, then, if you like, it's almost like you can take the topic of your children and put it out in front of you. So you take it out of the emotional part of yourself and you go, oh, it's there, it's a topic. And then your brain, the kind of the process side of your brain goes, okay, it's a topic, it's practical, I can deal with it logically, rather than, these are my children, they're being taken away from me, that's the worst feeling in the world, and I've got to go into fight, flight, free, I've got to go and kind of, protect them. And if you think about it, yes, those feelings are so strong and they're so powerful, and we're all, as parents, driven by those protecting feelings and those fight feelings. However, for your children, that response isn't the best, because when you're in those high states of emotion, you can't make proper decisions. So if you can almost take your children and kind of turn them into a topic, I know it sounds a bit cold, but and it's just for the purposes of managing your emotions, put them out in front of you and go, okay, what do we practically need to do here to keep them safe? I know that I don't trust my ex, but I know that he's a good parent. Or I know that I find my ex-wife slightly, dramatic, but I know that she loves me. You just need to make it kind of into a practical thing rather than an emotional thing. That's kind of where we're aiming for. It's very difficult. It's never straightforward. It's never a kind of smooth road. But if we know that and we understand that, then it's much easier to kind of come back to that point.
And that's where I think, as you say, it's not easy for parents to do that, but that's actually where working with someone, a facilitator, a coach, a mediator, to help parents focus in that way, clarify their intent and their purpose of working together, answer these questions together about future reflective questions and so on, can be so useful. Which kind of brings me on to that next point, really, which is how will they work with you? How does it work? Can you give our viewers a sense of, if they're a parent and they think, I like this, I like what she's saying, I want to work with you, what would happen? How do you work?
Okay, it's really simple. There are two ways that you can work with the co-parent way. The first way is you come and have one-to-one coaching. You go through 6 sessions, and you can either do it as an individual. So if your ex won't come, that doesn't matter. You still come, you learn the same tools, you learn the same skills. And even though you're not kind of technically in a co-parent coaching, you're still going to be putting something different out there. So your ex will engage with you in a different way. Okay. So that's that side of the one-to-one. Or you come, both of you, and we don't see you at the same time, because then you get caught in your story. We see you separately for 6 sessions once a week, and we take you through at roughly the same pace. So you both know what you're learning. There's an accountability loop then that's created. So you're more likely to go away and practice, and I'll tell you, right, go away and do this and go away and do that. And in each session, you get 1 or 2 practical tools that you can take away and do then and there. And you end up with, right at the end, co-parenting plan that you can work together if you've not got one already, and a co-parent charter, which is your agreement about how you're going to behave with each other going forward, even when there are bumps in the road. So that's the co-parent coaching. That's the face-to-face or Zoom-to-Zoom side. The other way, and that's expensive, right? That's more expensive because it's time. The other way and we did this over lockdown, is we took the whole methodology and we turned it into an online self-paced course. Because it's expensive to do the face-to-face coaching, we wanted to reach as many people as possible, because we don't believe it's this kind of skill set should be exclusive. We think it should be inclusive. So there's an online self-paced course that you can buy through our website. You can buy it at 3 a.m. and you can start it at 1 minute past 3 in the morning. You go through it on your own, or your co-parent gets it too, and you go through it at the same time. Either is fine. And that is 10 modules. They're about 20 to 30 minutes each. There's a workbook that goes alongside it, which you can print off or download and do it on your computer. You can access it from your phone. So it's aimed to be as flexible as possible. And you get the same practical tools and techniques as you do in the one-to-one coaching, and it's really effective. We launched that in September, and we've had some pretty awesome feedback from it so far, which we're delighted about. So,
and I've heard that as well. That's fantastic news, by the way. So, why do you think it's so effective?
Because it's unique it's unique. It uses a unique kind of trilogy, if you like, of techniques. So it uses coaching, and coaching is really effective anyway, whatever kind of coaching you have, because it, like I said earlier, it removes the limiting beliefs, right? So it's not that you're going to become a rocket scientist, but it removes the limiting beliefs within the context of who you are. So it has a coaching side. It has, we use memory techniques. So we use things like spaced learning, and we use things like different ways of saying the same information. We understand very quickly if someone's visual, or if they're oral, or if they're more physical, and so we kind of use that and adapt that to where the client is, or if you're doing on the course, there's ways that we take you through that. And we use learning. So it's not just about coaching and then lots of practical tools. We teach people kind of the reasons why it's important to co-parent, what happens to you physically and neurologically when you're going through these difficult things, and how do you then manage that. So it's like the kind of holy trinity of those three things that makes it different and makes it so effective. And it's why we've got people kind of, coming back through recommendations from other people that have done it. It's like, go and do this. It really helped us. I still don't like my ex, but I can certainly co-parent with him and communicate with her, or whatever it might be.
And actually, did you find that, I imagine one powerful aspect of this is, once parents have a new understanding, a new insight about themselves and what's necessary, and new insights about the relationship they have and why things are difficult, it makes, I think you use the word accountable quite a lot. It makes them more accountable to themselves and actually to the relationship for the children, and obviously for the children as well. So I can see absolutely how that's powerful, using the trilogy of techniques and methodology. And so I absolutely see it. So if a parent wants to engage with you, wants to get stuck. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. Sorry, I'm thinking something like. And the other powerful thing that's really powerful, I picked up on because I use it myself, is if you get help both parents to use the same materials. As you said, you're running this parallel. They're not going off different directions, getting different information from different people, from different sources, and just doing their best. You're creating a framework and structure around great resources and supporting them, use those resources to support them. And I can absolutely see how that combination is powerful. So here's my question: if parents do, so they've listened to this and they want to get in contact, and they see the power of it. They say, yes, we need help. How do they? What's the next step? What's the next step to getting?
Really simple. You just go to thecoparentway.com, and you either send me an email through the website, or email me directly at hello@thecoparentway.com to set up a chat about the one-to-one coaching. Or if you want to buy the course, you go to the same website, www.coparentway.com, and you click and you buy the course through the website, and you can start it straight away. Some parents find us through lawyers. Some lawyers insist that parents work with me or do the course before they start the legal process and the legal journey. And the same with mediators, because I know obviously that's kind of the context that we're here. Many mediators have like a mediation plus service where they ask their clients to do this work first. And that means they come to mediation in a much more child-focused way with more communication skills at the table. So that's also really effective. But if they want to buy it directly, you just go through the website.
So just thinking about that, again, because we are talking about, from my point of view, within the context of a mediation approach, which has at its core a really shared core principle, which is self-determination, of course, or put it another way, supported self-determination. We're helping parents make their own decisions. We're trying to keep them in the decision-making seat, as opposed to going to lawyers and mutual evaluations and courts and all the other, which is all very disapparent. If I'm a mediator, and I'm working with a couple on a range of things. It could be the finances, it could be the children, and so on. And I'm working with them on a parenting plan, for example. How can you give me an example, or give my mediators an example, because I've got mediators around the country, how it might integrate, how your service might integrate with what they're trying to do with, or working with the parents as well, where that added value is.
Absolutely. There's lots of different points that a mediator might bring us in. The beginning, before you start the mediation process, especially if you think there is high conflict, if they're high conflict clients, because we teach them, and we can do kind of intense 2 or 3 hour sessions, in that circumstance. Just teaching them the self-management and the communication. So when they're in the mediation, that runs more smoothly, and you get to a decision, more effectively than perhaps would have happened. In shuttle mediations, we sit in the room so there's the client's not on their own, or in the Zoom room, and work with them about something they might be finding difficult that's emerged. In terms of things specific, you mentioned parenting plans specifically. There are usually always sticking points in kind of arrangements and where the child is and when, and so working to help them see those arrangements from the child's perspective is the piece that we find is quite useful in that mediation kind of point. Lots of ways that we do that work with mediators. So.
And I can absolutely see if I'm working with a couple, I might be on second session or third session, and sometimes they are getting a little bit stuck with the conversation, and it can just breaking that state, or working with someone else, or working with slightly different methodology and so on, can absolutely can bring huge benefits. No, I can definitely see that. And of course, you can be found on our website as well, because we as part of that kind of team of experts and support experts. So is there anything, kind of, as we draw this conversation to a conclusion, you would like the kind of viewers, the parents, separated parents going through some really challenging times, anything we'd want them to hear as we draw it to a close about what you're offering, or just words of wisdom, or anything really at this stage?
Maybe just something that I feel really passionate about is that, when we become parents, we never think that we're going to get divorced or separated. That's not really in the agenda. And so we haven't thought about it. And we separate, some of us separate amicably, many of us don't. And it becomes really hard to reformat, if you like, where you move out of being in a relationship to just being parents with them. And I just really like to invite parents to think that they're still parents, and they're going to have to parent with this person forever, effectively, but most intensively for the first 20 years of their child's life. And how do you want that period of time to be? Do you want it to be in high conflict? Does your child want it to be in high conflict? Or do you want to have, be able to rebuild your life and provide a safe, stable environment for your child? I suspect, John, that it's going to be mostly the latter. And if so, parents who are listening, I just want you to think about what your role is in making that happen and how you might change something, even if it's small, to help that process along.
Thank you. No, that's great. That's words of wisdom, actually, Marcie. That's great. So essentially, ask yourselves the hard questions. Ask yourselves those questions, and contact us. Contact Marcie if you feel you need some support with answering those and achieving things we've talked about. Marcie, thank you. Look, thank you very much for your time. It's really precious. I know you're really, really busy. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing this your offer, your services, and so on, explaining those. I'm sure your success will continue. It's in huge demand, I know. So thank you again, and I will see you very soon, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.